It's a snowy day here in Springs, PA, and I've got nothing else going on, so I figured I would explain why I returned the Kemper Profiler player. A bit of context for you, I bought the HX Stomp about 2 weeks before the Kemper Profiler player came out. Now when the player came out, I of course was just in the very beginning of learning the HX Stomp, and I thought this is a direct competitor to the HX Stomp, and before I go and learn the HX ecosystem, I wanted to also get one of the other big name players for the exact same price in my hands and decide then which one of those I would end up keeping. So I knew going into it that I was either going to keep one or the other of these, and I wanted to learn them both at the same time and determine which was the best for my needs. Reason number one, it doesn't sound like an amp in the room. So as I've explored these digital amp replacement solutions, what I found is that there really is no replacing the sound of an amp in the room with you moving air. And these things sound great, these modelers, the Kempers, the Helix, the Quad Cortex, all of these sound great, but it's not the true sound of the amp in the room. Even when it comes to miking an amp, you're gonna get a different flavor. It's not gonna sound exactly like it was sitting there right next to the amp. So for me, all of these solutions, including miking the amp, fall short of the sound of the amp in the room with me. And so I have to treat them as flavors instead of the actual tone that I'm driving towards. For example, whenever I'm playing a show, I typically run my amp hot enough that in the quietest part of our show, the amp is doing all of the heavy lifting, and then the supplemental sound coming from whether it's a mic or whether it's a direct system is just that. It's supplemental sound in the PA. It's not my tone that I'm wanting the audience to hear. All of that is coming from the amp itself. And so whenever I'm looking and exploring these solutions and what is the best sound for me, I have to look at it like they are flavors, and it's not the sound that I'm truly going for. It's going to be a flavor of what I'm going for, and then I just pick accordingly to that. But I think inherently it makes me less picky with that sound. I want it to sound good, but if you're searching for that extra 1% or 2% of the sound, I'm not gonna be as nitpicky about that because of the situation that I'm using these in. Whether you're playing a Kemper or a Helix or a Quad Cortex or just miking the amp, you're not going to get that exact same tone coming from the amp. And you just have to realize that and learn to live with it and pick which one gets closest to the sound that you enjoy. Reason number two, there's no display on the Kemper Profiler player. I know for some of you this isn't really a big deal, and I've even seen people put comments out there like, well, at least they didn't put a cheap screen in there. But for me personally, it is a massive downgrade to not have a screen in this thing. So the Kemper Profiler player, in order to determine which bank you're on, it is determined by the LEDs on the top of the bank button. And those LEDs go from red, green, blue, yellow, an array of arbitrary colors, and those colors are then linked to bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, bank 4. But you would have to memorize that yellow comes after green, comes after red, comes after purple left, to know exactly which bank you're on. If they would have just had an LED screen at the top, what I need to see when I look down is some user definable, say, MB Mar, so that I would know that I am on a Marshall preset of my choosing, some nomenclature that I can choose so that I can look down and just have a tactile feedback of just that realization that I am on the correct preset. And so the reason this is important is because live, when I look down, I'm not gonna see this tiny LED and know if it's on the left or the right, and then I have to see, is that yellow, is that green? And then I have to remember which bank yellow or green meant. And so having even a simple alphanumeric cheap screen would have meant the world for me. It may have made me keep this unit, or it may have helped in my decision to keep this unit at least. Another reason not having a display is a major downgrade for me is that when I'm editing effects, it's hard to tell exactly which effect or parameter I'm editing on this. Or at the very least, I have to memorize which effect and parameter I'm editing. Of course, if you had a screen, it would be able to, as you turn the encoder, it could switch and show you which effect you're on or editing. But as it is right now, you basically have to have your phone up or memorize every single color code that is on the unit in order to accurately or effectively edit your effects. Reason number three, no USB-C. I know this one sounds kind of silly, but I cannot believe that in 2023, 2024, a company came out with a product and did not have USB-C on it. It was 3-4 years ago that I was already feeling this way with these companies, and now Kemper brings out a USB-B and a USB-A instead of two USB-Cs. And the reason that's I think a major fault on their part is because you could have powered this over USB-C. Now, I'm fine with having a barrel connector, but if you have a USB-C, you also would have been able to power it. That could have been your interface as well. And then again, most devices are coming out with USB-C connectors, and to then have to have a USB-A to power your device, it's a step back. It's a lack of looking into the future on Kemper's part. Now, I understand there are some reasons why USB-B would be a viable solution. It's a more robust connection for the interface. But again, most of these interfaces now are running just straight USB-C. It's the industry standard now, so it's inexcusable in my mind for Kemper to not place a USB-C on this device. Reason number 4, other solutions do the job better. Now, this reason is going to be a little bit more personal because depending on what your needs may be versus my needs, the Kemper Profiler Player may be the right solution for you. And if there was no other product like this on the marketplace, it would definitely determine, I think, how critical I was towards some of these other areas. But when it comes down to it, what I'm looking for in a unit is for it to sound good and be a backup or minimal sound reinforcements for my amps on stage. And then anything else it can do on top of that is great. When it comes down to it for me, the Kemper Profiler Player had a poor user interface experience whenever it came to a live setting. If I was sitting on a desk just messing around at home, it was great. I could have my phone out, things like that. But in a live setting, I would really struggle to use that effectively and efficiently. Take the HX Stomp now. It has a much better user interface. It has a nice screen I can go through. It has hundreds and hundreds of effects, and I can arrange the blocks in any way that I want. When it comes to the amp modeling, some people may say the Kemper is much better than the HX Stomp. Other people actually like the HX Stomp and the Helix models. For me personally, I don't really have a preference. They both still have a little bit of a digital feel, and it's just a flavor of the amp, and it's minimal sound reinforcements for me. So for me personally, the benefits that I'm getting with the extra effects and the ease of use in a live setting for me with the HX Stomp forces me into keeping the HX Stomp over the Kemper Profiler Player. Now, the Kemper Profiler Player has a fantastic build quality. It is rugged, it is built like a tank. If it meets all your needs and you love that Kemper sound, it is a great product for you. For me personally, and the needs that I had, it just didn't end up doing exactly what I needed it to do.